Enma is Zoro's greatest sword?
No! God, please, no! No!
Past, present, and probably future. Enma is that good of a blade. To the point where after seeing the flying dragon blaze in latest chapter One Piece 1002, I'm willing to bet that Enma is probably now going to be Zoro's main Itoryu sword. Enma has such destructive power and such potential in terms of not only becoming a black blade, but it's already insane innate attributes. I don't see why Zoro wouldn't make Enma his main Itoryu sword going forward. This is a full retrospective of the greatness of Enma, the blade that Zoro's gotten, and I think it's safe to say that even though there are probably a few good options as to what swords will Zoro be getting in the future, I'm willing to bet like a hefty sum of money. Like let's say like $500, like a PS5. I think it's 500. Is it $500 still, right? Yeah, I think so. I forget. I'm willing to bet a PS5 on it. That yeah, Enma is probably Zoro's best sword he's gotten, past, present, and future. Because Enma is kind of absurd in terms of what it can do. Now granted, we're only at the beginning stages of Zoro with Enma at this point in time. There's still a lot to come when it comes to Zoro's mastery over the sword. But Enma is the real deal, without question. Those that denied Enma's greatness have now eaten their words 15 times over. You can't deny it. It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
Clear as crystal!
Enma is the real deal. And Zoro unleashing more of Enma has allowed him to produce one of the most powerful attacks we've seen Zoro ever do. If not the most powerful attack we've seen Zoro ever do. So, before we get to Enma, I want to double back to the past because I want to review some of Zoro's old swords and why they're not anywhere even close to Enma. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So if you want to get to all that just Enma greatness, there'll be a timestamp in the description box down below. But why not? Let's go through the rigmaroles. Just like as a refresher, all right? We can always use a refresher here or there. So, first of all, Wado Ichimonji is pretty much like Zoro's Old Faithful. It's the sword that Zoro relies on the most. Think of like, let's say, Naruto's Rasengan, or let's say Ichigo's Getsuga Tencho, or Seiya's Pegasus Ryu Senken. It is Old Faithful. It's the thing that Zoro relies on the most. The first line song that Zoro's ever done was with Wado Ichimonji. The first Phoenix Pound Cannon he used back on Skypiea was with Wado Ichimonji. It is the sword that means the most to him. It is the sword that he puts in his mouth, which is a very sacred thing. A grown man putting a sword in his mouth, it must be very important. And when Zoro does it,
stop it. Get some help.
It means a lot. Did I just? Okay. So moving on from that, I think there is one thing, and I'm gonna throw it out there because maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible. Potentially.
He said it!
There, that's that word. In the future, we might see some additional attributes and bonus effects from Wado Ichimonji because we found out recently that Shimotsuki Kozuboro had made both Wado and Enma. So there could be some interaction between Enma and Wado that, let's say, could bring out some latent abilities, some hidden attributes of Wado to the forefront. Maybe. It's like a really interesting theory, but I feel like, well, we know that he got used to Enma quicker because Wado and Enma are maybe the same person, but maybe we can go deeper with that one, and where Wado has some hidden abilities that Zoro isn't aware of, and then by using Enma, he'll open the gate. Like when Aomine opens the gate to the zone, he'll open that gate and then he'll gain access to some hidden attributes of Wado. Potentially. Now the Sagetetsu, of course, a very sharp, excellent blade. Also a cursed blade as well, but nothing like Enma. Like not even close to Enma. It's almost like if Enma's the Burger King, then Sandai is the Burger Prince. Sandai's Arby's. They have the meats, but no one...
Arby's, we have the meats.
No one cares, and no one is ordering Arby's anytime soon. If you are, you live in a very sad world, and I feel sorry for you. I really do. If that's all you have in your area, move out of your area, please, or learn some cooking. My goodness. Enma is just the better version of the Sankatetsu, though Enma does have that attribute where maybe at times it could be a drawback, but we'll get to that real Super Enma. But Sankatetsu is a grade sword. It's a Wazemono, probably upgrade via a black blade into a Ryo Wazemono, a skillful great sword. Now, what was a skillful great sword that Zoro lost, of course we all know, was the Yubashiri, which was a fantastic blade that was very lightweight. Lightweight, baby! That was very easy to use, and actually because it was a skillful grade blade from the jump, it could have been a great grade blade if it became a black blade. Therefore, it had more potential than the Sankatetsu. Assuming, and this is a very important thing here, assuming that the curse attribute doesn't lead to anything within the swordsmen themselves. Meaning that things like Ashura, where people can all see his 3 heads and his extra arms, or let's say Enma Yonezu, where his swords start to bend and contort and people can see that. There is a theory out there that the reason why Zoro can do these he could do these demon-ish things is because of the Sandai Katetsu and it being a core sword. Now there's other things as well, like for example, folks theorize that it's Zoro's bloodline. That's the reason why he can do that. We have no idea. We have no idea. The fact of the matter is that Zoro could do Ashura, folks could see Ashura, and the Sankatetsu could maybe be the reason why he could do these Ashura, Enma, Gyuki, demon-like things. Other swords that we've seen have cursed blades, like for example, Trafalgar D Water Law. He doesn't do any weird demon stuff. Or let's say, like for example, when Zoro first used the Sankatetsu, and like it was a bad sword, and then it cut some guy like on its own, something like that, like had that murderous intent. We've never seen Law have any interaction with his sword like that. And again, according to Oda, Law sword's a cursed sword. And he's a doctor. Imagine that. I mean, he's called the Surgeon of Death for a reason, so maybe, you know, the curse sword plays a role into that. Maybe he slips up from time to time and then he winds up like puncturing your liver or something like that. Whatever. That being said though, the Yubashiri, you can argue, was a better sword, just innately, just in general, than the Sankatetsu, though maybe the Sandai could make up for that with some unique attributes. Maybe, but against all theory. Now, Shusui, Metal Shusui, the greatest sword that Zoro's ever got in the pre-time skip, clearly. It is the sword that is already a black blade, which means it has extra toughness and it had extra weight to it. And that extra weight allowed for Zoro to gain larger air cuts, and then Shusui's air cut absorbed the other air cuts, made it into a giant wave. So essentially, Shusui could amplify certain attacks that Zoro could use because it combined all the attacks in the one giant attack. But the potential of Meito Shusui was pretty much capped out because it was already a black blade, so it can't get any better. But nonetheless, still a great sword. Now, Enma. Oh, I love saying Enma. It's almost like conjuring a monster, like.
Stop it.
Yeah. Like, say it too many times, you have monsters that come out of the closet. Enma, I think, is once again Zoro's greatest sword, past, present, and potentially future as well. I am putting a PS5 on the line. So 4 or 5 years from now, come back at me and I'll give PS5. I am the one, the way your son don't need Yeah. Yeah. The best way I can explain this for Zoro Enma is the way I see it. Enma is to Zoro to what Gear 4 is to Luffy. Zoro's Enma is his Gear 4, essentially. Because the way Enma's abilities work, it is unlike any other sword that we've seen in the entire series. Enma is really unique in this particular aspect. When Luffy held the Nikatetsu, there was nothing of the sword. All the swords we've seen Zoro use, nothing of the sword. All the other swords that we've seen in the entire series, nothing of the sword. Enma's innate ability to control Haki is unique to that particular sword thus far. No other sword we've seen thus far in the entire series of One Piece is like Enma. Enma is really unique. And that ability alone, when it comes to actually utilizing controlling Haki, puts it definitively and innately over every other sword that Zoro's ever gotten. Ever. Now, you have to have good Haki control, obviously, because what Kinemon said, folks that used it in the past would like dry up because their Haki would just run out because Enma said, give me all that stuff. Just give me that Haki. But Zoro's like, what? Nani? Nani? Give me that. Zoro is a very adept person at Haki, especially after that Mihawk training. Armored Haki, according to Oda, Zoro has an affinity for Armored Haki. And I think what we kind of see in the chapters, Enma may, I'm not gonna say for sure, but it seems to me that it actually may amplify the Haki attacks that one uses. This is something that is not confirmed, but I think it's very, very possible. And the key thing here is Zoro, quote unquote, unleashing more of Enma. Zoro has probably a better idea of how to use Enma compared to the Scabbards, who have not wielded Enma as far as we understood. Maybe some of them tried, like Ashidoji or Denjiro, but they probably failed, hence the reason why they weren't using Enma to begin with. That's my guess, but either way, it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is that Zoro has a very good idea of how to use Enma. Wado Ichimonji, Enma may be the same person, so he was able to handle Enma at a faster rate, rather than, let's say, someone that only had one sword, and then they replaced it with just Enma by itself. In chapter 1001, Zoro was committed to unleash more of Enma. And in this chapter, chapter 1002, we see Zoro focusing specifically and only on Enma. Enma was the sword that he relied on the most in this chapter by far and away. Maybe he used another sword for the Flame Ren, I'm not too sure. But I think it was just Enma. It was all Enma. Blocking Kaido's Demolition Breath, the Flame Ren probably, the Flying Dragon Blaze, all these things were just Enma. And when he committed specifically to Enma, we see probably the strongest attack Zoro's ever done in the entire series, with that Flying Dragon Blaze. I don't think Zoro could do that if he committed himself to just Wado or just Sandai, or even just Shusui. If he were to focus all of his Haki like that on Shusui, on Wado, or on the Sandai Kitetsu, I don't think the outcome is the same. And that's assuming that Zoro could even do that with his other swords. Because remember, Enma's natural ability is to draw out one's Haki. It is Enma specifically, hence again, unleashing more of Enma. He didn't say, I need to unleash more power general. No, he just said, I have to unleash more of Enma. Which begs the question, can Enma actually amplify Haki as well? Which I think maybe it could. And the key thing here would be this whole notion of Oden residing in some way in Enma, or like something about Odin's essence is in Enma. Now, this is a very, very strange thing here, but I don't think it's anything spiritual. It could be. I did a video on how to obtain a Black Blade, and I talk about how maybe the spirit of the former wielder can embed itself or part of itself into the blade. And so when Oden died, maybe some of Oden could be in Enma. Maybe. But I don't think so. I think in a general sense, what this is simply put Haki. Because the same thing, or a similar thing that Kaido says about Zoro and Enma is what he says to the Scabbards after Paradise Totsuka, where he sees the visage of Oden in the Red Scabbards. So to me, that means Ryo Haki, or just Haki in general. But it's the type of Haki, which is the Haki that does internal organ damage, or it bypasses defense. It is possible, I think, that because of Enma's natural attributes, Zoro doesn't have to actually learn this next stage of Ryo per se, because Enma provides an equivalent of that innately. I surmise that Oden, he taught the Scabbards his particular style of Ryo, which I surmise is the same thing that we see Rayleigh do with removing the collar around Kami, what we see Luffy training for in the Prisoner of Mines, what Luffy's doing now. That Haki that goes internally, I think Zoro may produce something of that ilk with Enma because of Enma's natural innate abilities. It could be a soul thing, it could be, but it's kind of weird. I think, consistently speaking, the main thing here has been the Ryo haki that can bypass natural defenses and do internal damage. Now, the major drawback here is that because Enma forces haki in a particular weird way, and maybe even amplifies haki, Zoro after that one attack was wheezing and huffing. So it's safe to say that Zoro can't max out and focus on Enma like spam it. At least not yet. He's not there yet. But when he can do it, it's devastating. When Zoro doesn't focus that much on Enma alone, let's say it's Getsuga Tensho. When he does, Mugetsu. Whoa. Oh. Fing. Whoa. And again, that's the main reason why, when it comes to Itoryu skills, I don't see why Zoro wouldn't want to use Enma more often than, let's say, Wado or Sandai. If he does a Shishi Sonsong with Enma, that is going to be way more potent than it would be Wado or Sandai. And in theory, probably Shusui as well. If he did a 360 Phoenix Pound cannon, it's going to be way more powerful with Enma than it would be Wado or Sandai. And actually, you can even go a step further and say, because Shusui is gone, Zoro's attacks may not be able to like converge the same way. I did a video on that one too, actually, like a while back. I was a video called Zoro's Next Level. And the difference here between Enma and Shusui is that Shusui was heavier blade. And because it was heavier, it could actually absorb the other attacks into one big attack. But Enma by itself may not be able to do that. But when you see the Flying Dragon Blaze, it actually reminded me a little bit of Mihawk's cut on the Giant Tsunami, where it was almost invisible in a way. Like, there's a space between where they're fighting from and the horn, and that shockwave-ish cut is kind of hard to tell. Whereas in the past, I think it'd be like more of like a giant, distinct wave. Now, to be fair, in the anime, it's like that. It's a giant purple wave when he first used it in the anime. So of course, when the anime gets to this part, we'll see better, obviously. The next thing I want to know that too, which is a very, 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 very big maybe on how Enma works. Potentially. All right.
Another one.
All right. The thing that we see around Enma is not haki, but fire. Now, why would it be Fire King? That's kind of weird. Well, let me explain. When we see Zoro use Enma for the first time, he actually produces fire where it cuts, when it cuts the cliff. And keep in mind that Zoro actually knows the Flame Ren. He knows Kinemon's Firefox style. And Kinemon can actually produce fire with the Firefox style. And then finally, the attack that he used, the Flying Dragon Blaze, this was the same attack that he used against Ryoma. And when he did cut Ryoma, there was a residue of blue fire in the anime, but there's residue of fire in general. So maybe what we're actually seeing around Enma is not haki, but it could be blue fire that Zoro has around the sword. Maybe. It's a tough sell, but keep in mind that Zoro at this point in time does have a much greater degree of fire control. After it's all said and done, Zoro can still make Enma into a black blade. Zoro seemingly can output way more damage in Enma than he can any of his other swords. And there's a very good chance, I think, that Enma can amplify one's haki as well when he focuses specifically and solely on Enma and Enma alone. So it's not to say that Zoro can't cut / damage Kaido without Enma, but it is clearly the case that the level of damage Zoro can do with Enma when he focuses more on Enma is absurdly more. It's absurdly more. Because maybe, again, Enma has a haki feature or a fire / haki feature that can duplicate or replicate in some way that level of Ryo haki, that technique of Ryo haki, where it can go and do internal damage as well. Hence Kaido feeling something akin to Oden in that sword. But based on the huffing and the wheezing after the Flying Dragon Blaze, the major drawback would be his stamina and siphoning too much haki from his haki pool. Not for the future for our good old boy, Ronor Zolo.
Unacceptable!
Ronor Zoro. For all the Zoro fanboys, relax. But to be fair, I ain't gonna front. After reading so much viz, I'm actually getting used to Zolo. Like, I'm not even.
Unacceptable!
I'm not even trolling. I'm getting used to Zolo one chapter at a time. The Nia Kitetsu, I think, is the next sword that Zoro will get. I think for sure. I don't see why not. I don't see why not. If the curse stuff is attributed to, let's say, again, Ashura and Bima and so on, then it's probably the case. The reason we haven't seen it so far in the post-time skip is Zoro has graduated from the Sandai level, and then now has to go to the Nidai level, because Sandai is just an older model. It's like my iPhone. My iPhone is a 6S. It's awful. I need a new phone ASAP, absolutely. And that new phone, the iPhone 12, will be my Nia Kitetsu. But I don't think the Nidai will be like Enma. Enma has a unique ability that we've never seen any sword utilize in the entire series ever. I don't think Nia Kitetsu will be anything like Enma. I really don't. Yoru, folks have theorized that he's gonna get. That's weird. That's weird. Like, unless all of Zoro's swords broke against Mihawk, and then let's say he had Yoru reforged into 3 swords, like, no, it's a weird thing. I'm pretty sure in that fight against Mihawk, Yoru may break, and that's gonna be it. End of story. Done. All right, call it a wrap. Give it a tombstone. Done. That's it. And then finally, the Shogatetsu, the supreme grade blade of the Kitetsus, the Saijo Azimoto of the Kitetsu line. I don't see it. The reason why is actually very simple. If Zoro gets Nikitetsu, I can see Zoro wielding 3 black blades. The Shodai, some folks theorize that it's the Gorosei guy, that he has that sword. Okay, fine, whatever. However, Zoro getting that sword, I don't see why, if he makes the Nidai into a black blade, that in of itself will be a supreme grade blade. Why bother? At the end of the series, I want Zoro to have 3 supreme grade blades, all of them black blades. And as far as I can tell, we haven't seen a single supreme grade blade that is also a black blade, with the exception of Yoru, which to me means it's probably the case that Yoru was a great grade blade at some point in the future. Like, kind of like how in the filler scene of the human mandrills, where one mandrill was like a Mihawk mandrill, and it had Mihawk's sword, but it wasn't a black blade. Kind of like that. But I don't know if you can make supreme grade blades themselves into black blade, because then what's a higher grade after that? Like, is there a god level, like ascended level blade? Like, that's kind of weird. I ain't gonna front. So there's a very good chance that because the supreme grade blades are already in themselves the pinnacle of the blades, if they're not supreme grade blades through upgrades, through, again, black blade stuff, then there's a good chance, I think, that the supreme grade blades cannot become black blades. So for me, it kind of ruins the dynamic that I see for Zoro in the future, where I want him to have 3 black blades. All 3 swords leveled up from great grade to supreme grade. Not a supreme grade sword where it's just gonna be that and that alone. And there's a good chance, I think, that you probably can't even level the sword in the first place. So on that note, guys and gals, that is it for today's video. There's a very good chance, I'd argue, a very good chance, that when it comes to Zoro's swords, Enma will be the best of his blades. Again, Wado Ichimonji, you'd argue, will be the best one, but at the same time, Wado has no unique attributes, but it's Old Faithful. It's the sword that matters the most to Zoro. And we've seen Enma, and I don't think Zoro could output the symbol of DC at all. Not even close with Wado Ichimonji, and that's Zoro's forte. So, on that note, let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. It would help your boy out tremendously if you hit the video, if you comment, if you subscribe, and click on that bell to join the squad, the notification squad. I'm gonna see you guys and gals on the flip side. Be easy, take care, stay safe, and have a nice one.